kick up in that ass with the resurrection. What's up, guys? It's been a long time. Quick update. In the last 2 years, I have switched jobs like 5 times, and not in a bad way. Don't get freaked out. But there's opportunities. I jumped at it, and it's caused me to move past the industry I used to be in a different one that's completely different to me, and it's been taking up a lot of my time because it's similar but yet very different to what I was already doing. Had to move out of the hometown I was in where I had my boys, and it's, the older you get, the less time you get to spend with them, man. So and I found myself like at a place where I have a very young crew, and a lot of them don't watch professional wrestling except for one guy, and he is just a regular fan. He doesn't know the inside terms, he doesn't know any of this stuff, so I'm kind of bringing him along and watching him like be fascinated by all this stuff, clips and stuff that I'm showing him, man. And what brings me to what I'm doing with this particular little podcast that I'm doing for this one is Work Shoots. Like, the dude is fascinated by what's going on. The MJF thing really kind of opened everything up, and I started taking him back to CM Punk, to a bunch of other stuff that's happened, the Hogan thing, Bash to the Beach, a lot of stuff. I'm bringing him along, and he's loving it just the same way I was. Which brings me to this subject that I'm bringing in, which is work shoots, and do they benefit or do they hurt pro wrestling? So of course the MJF thing kind of took off. I was there. I was at the LA show when he went off, and like the crowd, I was sitting not in the hard cam side. I was sitting right behind it. So we heard all the reverberations and everything, and the people in my section were like gasping. I was laughing my ass off, Buddy Roger, our buddy Roger, was down closer on the floor side, and he was loving it. And my old buddy Brian, that showed me a lot of this pro wrestling stuff in my teenage years, he was there too, and he was loving it too. He's texting me, letting me know, like, what the hell's going on? Like, that promo was insane, and the crowd was like back and forth, loving it, hating it, loving it, hating it. I thought it was great. Like, I love stuff like that. So for me, I'm gonna speak on what I feel. Oops, sorry, I dropped something. Speak on what I feel about Work Shoots. I love it. That brought me to a different love for this. So when I was a kid, obviously we all loved the comic book superhero aspect of it. And then the first time I remember kind of going like, huh? Was definitely Brian Pillman doing the whole "I respect you, Booker Man" thing. And this is when I started hanging out with like I mentioned before, my buddy Brian, who was a couple years older than me. He was already into all this stuff and inside terms and dirt sheets, and buying all the wrestling magazines, tape trading. The guy had a massive amount of wrestling stuff that he would tape trade. And so he was getting stuff, from Japan, from Mexico, and he was getting ECW stuff. I didn't know about ECW. The only stuff, different wrestling organizations I knew, it was just WWE, WWF, or WF at the time, WCW, and maybe whatever they showed on ESPN late nights, like Saturday nights, when it was like a bunch of different ones, and some of them weren't even current. They were like from the 80s and stuff. That's the only stuff I knew. So when he went to ECW and dropped that crazy promo, and he showed it to me, and I was just watching it in awe. I'm like, what the hell? This is sort of, Brian Pillman was kind of, being kind of edgy in WCW before he left, for sure. And then when he got to ECW and dropped that promo, it's just like, what the hell? Like, and he's like, oh man, this whole other world you didn't even know about. Learning the inside terms and all this stuff, to me, just got me even more interested. It became as interesting and as amazing in some aspects as the stuff you see in the ring. And I think the reason, other than the internet being born and giving people access, is the fact that at the time wrestling really did get kind of boring. Around the 94, 95 era, when it was you listen to any podcast, will tell you it was like one of the worst times in professional wrestling. You kind of, if you're a hardcore fan, you kind of start finding reasons to keep on loving it. And when people started jumping ship to WCW, WWE, back and forth, that led to it. Learning about dirt sheets, all this stuff, Wrestling Observer, all this insider information, awesome. So for me, it just it was like watching your favorite horror movie and then listening to John Carpenter and watching all this stuff and how they do the effects and all that. It was like digging underneath it. I know from like listening maybe the last 15 years that there's a lot of like old school guys that hate that. They hate the fact that people know so much, and it's just like, well, you can get mad, but the number one guy in professional wrestling was the guy who kind of took the lid off and to pull back the curtain on everything, and let you know that it was predetermined to everybody. So it's kind of like, since then it was like, it's been free range for anybody who's got a freaking podcast or anything like that, or an acquisitive mind, if you will, to go look beyond what's being given to us on our screen. And there's definitely like a back and forth. I think there's some pros that really like it, and then there's some that obviously really, really hate it. They just like want you to just watch the storyline and enjoy it like that, but that's impossible when it's the same old shit every week, and you look for reasons to try to find interest in this stuff. So definitely that's my angle on it. I love that kind of stuff. Like even with the when you get into the Hogan era with the NWO and all that stuff, and them kind of shooting shots back and forth, little slips here and there, little pot shots here and there between both sides, DX side, NWO side, listening to, when X-Pac going off and saying that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be here right now if they weren't being held hostage by WCW, that kind of stuff. Like I was digging that. I love that. I love when Bret Hart showed up in WCW and, seemingly talk shit or about Shawn Michaels or whatever, and Shawn Michaels talking shit about Bret Hart while he was over there. When Bret Hart lost, or when he was pretty much saying he was going to WCW, and they all came out with Canadian flags, that kind of stuff. I love that shit. Why wouldn't you? It was so interesting. It was so great. Even in modern times, I mean, like, there was a while where I just wasn't watching wrestling. Like I was watching Ring of Honor, I was watching, some New Japan stuff, but I was, watching MMA because it was a little bit more exciting. And boxing, Pacquiao was starting to take over, Mayweather was doing some fights, Oscar De La Hoya was at the end of his. So I was watching that. I was watching everything but like WWE until, CM Punk showed up there, and I remember liking CM Punk and being a fan of his, and then I started watching him, and man, like he was, his promos were the best. Like he kind of gave birth to a different style of promo. It was like, you remember Roddy Piper saying crazy shit, but he was like in his full mode character, screaming and yelling. And then you remember Jake the Snake saying some stuff, and it was always like poetic and weird in some aspect, or spooky even. And there was a combination there where like CM Punk was just talking in his normal voice and dropping heavy shit. As watching like a Henry Rollins doing this spoken word thing now, like, you know what I mean? Like he'd hit you with the big stuff. Make sure you hear it the way he would deliver it, and then it bled into other people. John Cena started doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like before it was just the same old lame shit, and then eventually he started slipping and stuff. And then all the Ring of Honor guys coming in, like that line was getting blurred, and even especially when the rise of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, where they're just like fuck the line. You know what I mean? This is definitely a performance that we're doing, and we're gonna let you guys in on stuff, and we're gonna let you guys know stuff, and then. Like one of the most controversial ones was probably Hogan and Russo and that whole aspect, and that led to lawsuits, that led to all kinds of crazy shit. I remember watching that pay-per-view and just like saying, holy shit, this is the most entertaining part of this whole pay-per-view. The pay-per-view itself was not memorable. I don't remember much. I think Booker T finally won, and Booker T at the time was one of my favorites, and I was happy for him, but all I could think about was Hogan going back and forth with Russo, and thinking like, then when Russo got to WCW, holy shit, you want to talk about just like using insider terms on the air, like saying, oh, Bill Goldberg's going against the script and fucking like stuff like that. WCW, I think, overdid it for sure, and it just completely tanked the whole show for me. Like 99 through 2001, I was watching it like once a month, and then it just became, I just wasn't watching it at all. It was unwatchable because it was just like Vince Russo without somebody kind of holding the reins for the guy. No filter. So, another great example of it. Remember Jim Cornette in his promos? I don't know if you guys are maybe too young, or people around my age remember Jim Cornette dropping those crazy promos during the middle of the Monday Night Wars, or at the beginning of them. And he was not only dissing WCW, he was dissing fucking WWE and the guys there, and man, like I remember hearing that. Like Jim Cornette, when he talks about the old days, I'll sit there and listen for fucking ever. He's a great storyteller, but when he talks about current stuff, I tend to tap out just because he just sounds like an angry old guy. You know what I mean? Like that just can't let go of the past, and doesn't realize that it doesn't go backwards, it goes forwards. We bring back some stuff from the past to utilize in the future, but it never fully goes back. It's never fully going to go back. The fucking toothpaste is out of the toothpaste is out of the fucking tube. You can't put it back in, so but I remember that ended up being another instance, man. And I'm just like and I was, showing this kid at my work all this stuff, and he's just like the Jim Cornette ones he loved. He was just like, wow, like they let him say that shit on the air. Like, yes, they did. They let him say that shit on the air because they were going back and forth, and they needed something. They needed something edgy, and that, Cornette being the edgy, the way he talks was edgy. Him himself was very corny, but those promos were something that I remember from him for fucking ever. I don't think he's done anything better since then, honestly. To be honest with you, his podcast is like, I'll listen to it every now and again, but like I said, it just sounds like somebody who's out of touch. But I mean, anything else I can think of here? Really quickly. McMahon going on those HBO shows and just pretty much making himself look like a jackass. Like he was Mr. McMahon in these things. And what is it? He grabbed the papers out of Bob Costas' hand and slammed them down. I'm thinking that was hilarious. After one thing that really stands out was after Bret Hart punched him in the face, and he did the whole fucking sit down interview with Jim Ross with a turtleneck on and trying to make himself seem like sympathetic, and people, fuck Bret Hart, everybody. No, this I'm the victim here, not him, and it just completely backfired. But at the time, the guy was very cutting edge, and that led to the greatest heel of all time, I guess you could say, right? Which brings me forward. I don't know if I'm forgetting some stuff. If you guys remember some stuff, please put it in the comment section so I can remember and go back and look at some of the stuff. This is stuff that just stands out to me in my head that that I love completely. I'm sure I'm missing some ECW stuff. And ECW, every show was them just talking shit on whoever and just kind of, I mean, there was a lot of that. Paul E, when he got on the mic, was just fucking ripping stuff up. Even into XPW when Rob Black was talking shit on ECW and other stuff. Like, there was a time for sure that the work shoot stuff like just completely overtook. And for me, it's like it became part of the show. So if you didn't like part of the show, it's like watching two guys chain wrestle and it gets boring. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to watch this. Change the channel. I'll come back when something else is better. So that work shoot stuff for me became part of the show. If it was like a lucha match that was good, and it's like, okay, or a lucha match that was sloppy, I'd be like, this isn't very good. If a work shoot was good, god damn it, like the pipe bomb, of course, we're getting to that. The pipe bomb was I remember. This is when we all were roommates, and we were watching it at our house. And I remember me and Dana was sitting there watching it, and Roger showed up, and a bunch of our friends, and we're listening to this. And the whole time we're laughing because poor John Cena had to sell the table spot in the fucking ring for like 10 minutes or whatever. But we're listening to him, and we're like, man, he's dropping Ring of Honor, he's saying Colt Cabana, he's saying New Japan, and this stuff, and like it blurred the lines. So for a little bit, you marked out because you're like, oh shit, is he really gonna, And for me, that would have been the best thing ever. WWE really wanted to be, edgy and cutting edge at the time that would let him show up at other federations with the belt, you know what I mean? Kind of do a buzz, but obviously they didn't want Punk to be that guy. Like they Cena was still the guy. You can't outshine our main guy. I mean, look how many guys they kept down when, in their pursuit of trying to get Roman over for like the 5 years that they were trying to get him over before finally, getting over as a heel, as everybody told him that's the only way he was going to do it. Same thing with Triple H during his reign of terror, keeping people down. They were CM Punk, like, we'll keep you and we'll let you be the guy but we'll never let you be completely the guy. And for me, there was no better example of that than he had to carry the John Cena belt. Like, he didn't get to make another belt like everybody else did. He got to carry the John Cena belt, and that to me was like every time I watched him, it's like, look, he's still carrying the John Cena belt, so you don't forget about John Cena. It was just that aspect of it. Like, so there's like a back and forth. It's like, yeah, we'll let you get. And the same thing with Daniel Bryan. It's like, how much of that was scripted, and how much of that was a little bit of reality? I mean, come on, he kind of ruined all their plans for those WrestleManias. I mean, they really thought Randy Orton and Batista was going to be like this headlining thing when this groundswell, this roots ground, like fan just kind of taking over stuff of Daniel Bryan coming to prominence during that year. And they literally thought about not going with it just because they wanted the two romance cover models to be the main event. But you had this plucky little freaking hipster guy, you know what I mean? It was undeniable that year, and that was probably their best WrestleMania they've had in fucking forever. So, since 17. Yeah. But at the Canada mid-fall. But that's just me going off on a tangent about something else. But getting to the MJF promo. So like I said, I was there and I watched it. And I was surprised that he actually showed up the next day. So for me, kind of seeing that he showed up the next day led me to think that he is still with the company, and that he's working with them. There's like a work relationship for sure. Maybe one doesn't step over. Maybe they won't bury him too much. They won't, you know what I mean? He won't let him bury them too much. But the best part about this is you don't know. And for me, like the whole AEW thing, like that first year, the best part about it was not knowing the dangerous booking, like John Moxley versus Kenny Omega. Who's gonna win? Oh, well, he can't lose. Well, he can't lose. And then that's the best part. Is like now you got to watch and find out which way they go, and how do they rebuild the person who loses. MJF losing to Wardlow. Obviously, we all knew Wardlow was moving on to bigger and better things, and the TNT title for him is perfect right now. I love that. And then where do you go with MJF? Well, luckily for them, MJF was forward thinking and started stirring up the nest, stirring the pot, and getting things cooking. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to WWE. Fuck this company. Fuck Tony Khan. Again, that whole thing, give himself like a different angle of it. So to me, it's borderline genius, but also at the same time, like they asked me. I remember because my girlfriend was there with me, and we're driving home and we're talking about the show. She's like, "So what would you do if MJF did that on your show?" I said, "I'd let him go. I'll let him finish out his contract. I'd book him the way I've been wanting to book him, no problems. And then when you get to the end of the contract, if he didn't sign the new contract and he wants to go, you let him go." The best thing about AEW right now is that they're still, as much as they're bringing in WWE guys, and I think Ring of Honor is going to help kind of alleviate some of that swelling that's going on in that roster. Hopefully, the best thing about AEW is like they're still booking their new stars. You know what I mean? Like Daniel Garcia's getting up there, and he's doing great. And Jungle Boy and Darby Allin's a star. All these guys are stars. Sammy's a star, and it's you still have all these guys that are waiting, and they're the next generation, the next step up. So for me, it's like you're gonna have a revolving door of guys that are coming in next. You know what I mean? So for me, I take the gamble and say, hey, you want to go WWE, see how they book you, go for it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? That they actually book you well. They're actually going to let this smaller guy, who's not a huge dude, be the number one guy when Roman Reigns will still be there, when John Cena's still coming in, when Seth Rollins is there, when Cody's now there. Cody, the freaking the Kanye West of fucking of wrestling. And the reason I say that is because he tricked everybody into thinking that he was a indie guy, right? Like a indie guy, an indie darling. As I remember hearing Kanye West saying that he tricked everybody into thinking that he was a backpack hip hop guy, underground hip hop guy. He wasn't that guy. He tricked everybody. He got everybody on board, and then now he's a star. Same thing with Cody. He tricked everybody into thinking he was an indie guy, and I'm kind of glad he left. Like that's fine. I would have loved to have seen him stay there and actually do what he said he was going to do and be a revolutionary guy and this and that, and not just another, crawling back to Papa Vince. So I would take the gamble and say, hey, you want to go WWE? You think they're going to book you better? Go for it. Like, you want to take the money instead? If you want the money's there. The money's always going to be there. He's a great talent on either side. It's like, how much money do you want? Is money the only important thing? Go to WWE and you think you're going to drop the same kind of pipe bombs and think you're going to have some kind of money freaking feud with The Miz or something like that, then by all means go ahead. But who knows? By 2024 that he's going, the landscape could change. They could, WWE could make some stars out of that NXT area. I mean, you have a bunch of people who are still green, but eventually you're gonna have somebody rise, right? And maybe by then they'll have some great booking, especially with all the controversies that's going on there. I would say take the gamble, let him go. But until between now and then, book him and let strike while the iron is hot, and let him just roll, man. And book him hot, book him heat, let him get that heat, let him become popular and all that. And then you get to the end, it's like, okay, well, did you earn all that money? Oh, you're the number one draw. Your merchandise is selling. You're moving the needle, as they like to say. Then okay, let's talk money. We'll try to get your stay. If not, let him go. But he'll help you get somebody else over for sure. I think Tony Khan should have balls of steel when it comes to this one, and just go with it, man. Just prove that you have the balls to be like, nobody's going to be bigger than this company, So the company is what's important. The fans are what's important, not one guy. Don't fall into that trope, and I hope that's what they do. So in my honest opinion, I hope they book him great, and then if he wants to go at the end, let him go. But definitely his work shoot. I know a lot of people were bothered by it and they're tired of it and this and that, but I thought it was great. I thought it was the reason I like AEW so much is because you get so much different stuff. It's a nice buffet, you know what I mean? You got that mixed with a bunch of other stuff, different styles, different types of characters, and it was fun. It was a great show. It was a fun atmosphere. It was a great way to, I mean, you had CM Punk come out and had his match, and then right after that you followed with MJF. Like, the crowd was hot all night. It was a great show, and I can't wait to go to another one. So thank you guys for listening to this. I just wanted to, you know, I was talking to the dude, and he was talking to me, and he was saying, he's like, oh man, you should have a podcast. And in my head I was like, if only you knew. So I kind of got the itch back. I wanted to throw this out there, see how it went. Hopefully there might be a revival to this channel. I don't know if I can do reviews, but I know I can do stuff like this that ties into what's going on currently. Hopefully you guys will come along for the ride. Thank you guys for sticking around. You know, everybody that's been hitting me up lately on my Instagram and on my Twitter, asking me about the channel, if it's coming back. I really appreciate it, man, because it really, you know, reminds me that, okay, we're not big. This channel is not big whatsoever, but there's a few people out there that actually kind of are like-minded when it comes to wrestling, or maybe just want to listen to something else. I thank you guys for sticking around, and everybody who's hitting me up on direct messaging and all that stuff. All my homies in the corners, I ain't forget you. What's up, Lo-Fi? What's up, everybody else? And hopefully, if you guys like this, let me know if there are any other subjects you guys want to talk about. That way we can start talking in the comment section. Anything, like I said, anything I forgot on this one, please throw it in the comment section. Anything that stands out for you guys, or any opinions you guys have, go for it. Hit up the comment section. Any other subjects you guys want to talk about that might come up, like anything, you know. I don't want to do like top 10s or anything like that, but definitely a subject that I could sit there and talk about for like 15-20 minutes. This was definitely one of them. Like I said, any suggestions are welcome, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.